grand final. It's done and dusted. Welcome back to the Gone for 10 show. Baxter, mate, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, it's good. Footy,
Good.
the regular footy's over. We've got less than about 12 days away before the World Cup kicks off. So bring it on.
100%. Obviously, the football season is over, but it's not over in its entirety. We do have the World Cup, but obviously, what we're here for it is the wrap up of the grand final. It's there on the screen. Your premiers for 2022 and minor premiers are the Penrith Panthers. Honestly, probably one of the best title defenses you've seen in a very long time, Baxter.
Yeah, I think it was very. Look, you can't say anything bad about the players on field. They're very strong. They played. You saw on grand final day. Just on repeat how these boys have been playing together since Jersey Flag under 17s, and they've just added bits and pieces along the way, and they've built this ultimate squad, which is sort of on par with that legendary sort of Melbourne squad that was every year seemed to finish first or second and go on and end up winning it. You could put it on par with the Queensland State of Origin side from 06 to 2011. It's been pretty good. It's a damn good team there, and mate, sign me up because I'd like a ring too.
Well, obviously, in the NRL era, there has only been 3 teams that have gone back to back to back grand finals. Obviously, not winning them all, but they have made 2. And it is obviously the Roosters in that 02, 03, 04, the Panthers in their 4 runs in a row, and now obviously the Panthers in 2021 and 22. But obviously, let's move into the game at hand. It was the Panthers 28, the Eels 12. Possession 56 to 44, completion 86 to 70. The sets are there. Total meters 2,218 to 1,636. Line breaks 7-3, and obviously tackle breaks 48 to 34. It was Stephen Crichton opening the scoring in the 10th minute, Brian Toto in the 17th, Scott Sorensen in the 27th, Brian Toto in the 45th, Charlie Staines in the 58th, Cleary 4 from 6 with the boot, and obviously that late flurry from Clint Gufferson in the 76th, then Parramatta's MVP, Jake Arthur in the 77th, with Mitchell Moses kicking 2 from 2. But Baxter, talk to me, mate. What did you make of the game? Firstly, what did you make of the Penrith Panthers and their, dominance in this game?
Look, I'll put it out there. I was on the power hype train. I do love an underdog sort of story. 36 years is a very long time to wait to lift the premiership again. For some teams, it's not so long to lift their first, but Para looked strong in that first 10 minutes up until that Stephen Crichton try. I think they sort of took it to Penrith, but Penrith sort of worked out a way to say, oh, well, if you're going to come at, there was a tackle, I think Reid Marnie jumped out of the line and he tackled Nathan Cleary, and then they started passing it to Luai and doing these sort of fancy trick plays to sort of keep Parramatta on their toes, and I don't think Parramatta had it in them stamina-wise to keep going, and Penrith just grinded out and just ran away with it. I thought after that Brian Toto second try to make it 22-0, there was about 30 minutes left to go in the game, and that was only 4 converted tries, really, and it brings you back on top. So I thought Parra could get into it, but once that last try with Charlie Staines to make it 28-0, it was all lost. I turned off the game and enjoyed the wedding for what it's worth. But, hats off again. Penrith show why they're the best team in the comp. Many more years to come for them, and happy days around Penrith.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how Penrith go. Obviously, they do lose Kikau. They do obviously lose Api Coruscant. There's rumours that To'o is going to test the open market. There's other rumours coming around that teams are circling due to salary cap restraints from Penrith. But talking about this game in itself, I guess, I can't even say, and this might be controversial, I can't say that Para played that bad of football. I don't think there'd be a team in the comp that would have beat Penrith, how they played that night. Not saying in general, but how they played in that grand final. I don't see a team that could have beat them. Their ruck speed was unbelievable. Their forwards, they were getting the ball. I think they scored their first try, and the next set they forced a dropout. They went 100 meters and forced a dropout. Now,
yeah,
I'll ask you a question because this is something, again, you were at a wedding, so you might not have noticed it, but every single kickoff from Parramatta went straight down the middle. Now, a Penrith side, you kick the ball down the middle, you allow their sets to either go left or right. Like, it just didn't make sense why you didn't put the ball into the corner, pin them in a corner, let them only go to the left or only go to the right. Just every single kick went straight down the middle, and they let their forwards steam forward. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I picked up on that. I did say to someone, I was just like, it's a bit weird that they're kicking straight to Edwards. Why not kick to Tor? Right, because Tor's one of his special abilities makes him a really, really good winner is that if Edwards or Charlie Staines was to take the ball up from the kick, his next play is to get behind the ball, get the ball and make some yardies, be like a front rower, but bringing the ball back from the back line. So I'd be kicking that Tor all day, and it was a bit weird why they just kept persisting a plan. Like, surely something should have clicked or should have been said at halftime. It's not working. Let's try plan B. Let's try plan C. Let's try something because what we're doing right now isn't working. And what have we got to lose? Like, we get there and you lose anyway, but at least you have a go. And you said none of the other 15 teams in the comp, no matter what they did, would have beat this Penrith side. There was reports that Parramatta players drove in separately, which is a bit unusual in grand final. Normally you meet at one location and a bus comes in. Apparently Parramatta knocked back the chance to do a captain's run or a training session at a core stadium before the grand final on Sunday. There was all these other reports as well that just didn't seem right, and Parramatta wanted to play like it was just a normal NRL week game, which then you go, oh, well, there you go. But put Melbourne Storm at their best, put the Roosters at their best, put the Cowboys, put any other team, South, put any other team up there on that day, and I don't think the scoreline would have been less than 16 points. I think it would be well and truly into 20-plus differential.
Yeah, well, it's obviously definitely an interesting. Obviously, we saw, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it is now, the Penrith Panthers went out against the Melbourne Storm and they got blown off the pitch in the first half. So I don't think this is all doom and gloom for the Eels because we've seen how Penrith have bounced back. They got used to the week. They know what a grand final week is now. Obviously, Mahoney, bless you. Reid Mahoney does leave. Papali'i does leave.
At the moment.
Well, he said he's going to honour it. The CEO or whoever it was of Pascoe of the Tigers has said, listen, if he doesn't want to come, that's brilliant. He can sit out for 3 years because that's what his contract is. So
yeah,
it's showing that he's going to stay. I think the Tigers are going to – he's going to go. Tigers are going to play hardball. He's going to end up at the Tigers now. We'll flip side to the Panthers. Kick out. How big of a loss is he? Appy Carousel, is he a big loss? Or obviously you've got Mitch Kenny that can play 30, 40 minutes. And then you've got Sonny Luke. I don't know if you watched the New South Wales Cup game on the weekend.
Not on the weekend, but previous to other weeks, I have since the announcement of Appy leaving. He's 24, 25 or something like that. He's going to be there at Penrith for maybe 2 seasons. And he's just keeping that spot for the next guy who is 17, 18 or whatever. And he's just coming through the system. He's just going to sit on that bench, or he's going to start for the next 2 years, and that's it. That'll be his, and they'll blood the new ones. They're talking about, as you touched on, To'o testing the open market. Stephen Crichton can test the open market. He wants to play fullback. He's in a similar situation as Suwali. He wants to play fullback, but you're not going to beat who is your current number one. Look, they've got stack and depth for days, if not decades. Do I see Penrith being dominant for the next decade? It'll be close, but not a decade.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, there's a few players looking at leaving. One of those names that is getting thrown out is Charlie Staines. Clarkie's column about 4 hours ago did post that the NRL has finally approved that he can take a pay cut to go back to Penrith. So we could see Staines going to the Tigers. We could see Tyrone Peachey heading back to obviously Penrith Panthers. A few other talking points at the moment. Ryan Madison was charged with a crusher tackle on Dylan Edwards. And this is something that's going to cause debate. Being a Roosters fan, this is something that's really annoyed me because I feel like if we had Lindsay Collins in the finals, it's a completely different game with a bit of mongrel. But Ryan Madison was facing a 4-game suspension. He's, however, been given the opportunity to pay $4,000 to clear that suspension. So, first of all, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on a player being able to fine? Do you think that could be something? Maybe not 4 grand, maybe 10, 12 grand, make it substantial?
I've harped on about this before, Tony. Like, if you want to crack down on these crusher or dangerous plays that hurt other players, bring in big week suspensions and big money payment fines. You know that you're going to hurt a player in the pocket, and you're going to hurt a coach because his players sitting on the sideline and he's not out there on the park and watch his team lose, 2-3 weeks in a row or whatnot. So I've harped on about it. The NRL judiciary system needs a bomb up it. Coming back from that Tyler May thing, it was all in their hands. I think we touched on it round 25. It wasn't his decision, so no heat or no bad blood towards him. They chose to postpone it for next year. Even again, you've been charged with a crusher tackle. If it's 4 weeks, sitting out for 4 weeks. There shouldn't be an option of going, clear the deck for next year, just pay the fine, because then, Lindsay Collins should pay the fine. Tom Burgess, should have paid a fine. Tamalolo should pay a fine. The list goes on for these players to wipe the deck clear so that they're clean, so that they're available next season come round 1. But
listen, I don't want to play favoritism, but obviously this is a massive call in favour of Australia going into this World Cup. Another thing that's gone in favour, it's another massive talking point. We actually haven't talked about this pre-hand, but obviously the ARL Commission has come out and they have agreed to insure all Kangaroo players in case they get injured at this World Cup. However, they will not insure any players that have elected to play for other nations such as Tonga or Samoa. Again, this is another thing now where an NRL player needs to either play for Australia and have the insurance for their family, or go and play for someone else and risk either A, covering their own injury fee.
It's not that, though. Like, okay, I get it, but it's still, because it doesn't matter if you want to go play for one of these Pacific Island nations or England or New Zealand or Lebanon or Italy or wherever you want to go. If you get injured at the World Cup, I think it should still fall under the IRL, International Rugby League.
This isn't saying that they won't pay for them. The Australian Rugby League is going to pay for Australian players only. So even players that are going like Luai, they're not going to pay for Luai.
That's what I mean. Like, let's just say he gets injured. So who covers his costs?
It's either going to be him or whatever team he's playing for. That's what they're saying pretty much.
Oh, well, that's a bit stupid, because you want your best players not even best. You want all players looked after, health and mentally wise. But just to say, for the ARL to say that, it's a bit harsh, because again, that goes against what I think should happen. And I've had numerous talks with people on what should happen in the international game, including state of origin and whatnot surrounding the NRL as well. So I don't like that they're playing favoritism, like you have to play for Australia, otherwise you're not going to be looked after if an accident happens. Imagine you or I playing for another country apart from Australia and we're going down. I wouldn't like to hear that kind of news. So I'm with the other players.
Well, let's 100% agree with you. I think every player should be insured if they're playing in an Australian league, which they all are playing in the NRL. So I think they should be insured regardless of who they play. But moving on to one more interesting point before we start to wrap up. Mitchell Moses has come up via News Corp, a story written by Brent Reed, and I've got the quote here, so I want to make sure I get it right. The Eels halfback has admitted his preference is to re-sign with the Parramatta Eels. His quote was, "I would love something to get sorted, but I have left it up to my management. I love this place. They've been so good to me. And to experience something like the grand final makes you want to come back." Now, for him to come out and say something like that, one of two things is going to happen here. He's either going to put the pressure on, he's going to get his contract, or is this almost a farewell? Like, I've left it up to my management, whatever they decide, whatever paycheck they get me. Could we see Mitchell Moses at the Dolphins? Could he be a big money move to the Dolphins?
Any player who leaves it up to management is stupid. Like, if I'm Mitch Moses and whoever his manager is, I'll be saying, whatever it takes, re-sign. Like, if he wanted to stay with Parramatta, if he said, look, if it means I have to take a haircut, it means I take a haircut. I want to stay. Like, you don't just go, oh, whatever you think's best for me, because they're not the one. The agents are not the one out there in pre-season sweating their ass off in 40-degree heat. They're not the one taking hit-ups and kicking the ball week in, week out come July next year. So you got the agent works for you. You tell the agent what you want to happen, and he just offers the best solution for you without you being there. So there was all these reports about him linking up with the Tigers. Now it's a bit hard because then there's all these talks about Tigers, right? So they're looking at about paying a $300,000 transfer fee for Bateman. They're looking at Clemmer. There's reports that they can get both. Now they've got Api Coruscant. Now they've got Isaiah Papali'i. They've got Luke Brooks on $1 million, whether they can offload him or not. They've got Adam Dewey to re-sign. They've got Jackson Hastings to come back. Look, with all those names, that is an impressive roster on paper. If and include Mitch Moses on top, you're going to have to get him for the right price. But there's also Dylan Brown, who's off contract, don't forget, for Parramatta, November 1.
I mean, if it was me, I'm snapping up Dylan Brown before I snap up Mitchell Moses, purely because of age and his ability. I'm snapping up Dylan Brown.
What, you play Jake Arthur at 7? Starting 7?
Honestly, if that's what it's going to be for a year, I'd much prefer to lose Mitchell Moses. All respect to him, he's a great player, but I'd rather lose Mitchell Moses before I lose arguably the number, 6? He could be a 7 if he wants to for New Zealand for a very, very long time. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. I'd snap up Brown, but I don't know. Mitch has got a lot on the moment. You know, deaf in the family, born in the family. Just if it's me, I'm having more hands-on with my contract negotiations. So, good luck to him. Good luck to everybody that's going to get talking about contracts in the November 1 and look on to the World Cup at the end of the year.
Well, we've got two more things to touch on quickly. This one won't need too much talking. The 2022 NRL Grand Final has now been recorded as the lowest rated finals game on TV of all time. It only had 1.671 million viewers. So say what you is about that, but we're going to jump into the last topic, which is a bit of a controversial one. You brought up his name. It's Api Coruscant. He is going for the Tigers. He's going there next year. I'm going to play a video.
Yeah, just to go out on a high like that, it's pretty incredible, and probably do the same thing in Tigers. Wow.
Now, that was obviously courtesy of the Tryline podcast, but with everything that's gone on, the Luai Call Me Daddy, Fisher Harris saying what he had to say. Let's talk.
Everything that Penrith did on the field, they've just scrubbed it out.
You know what? I've got nothing. I've got no issues with what Luai said, with what Fisher Harris said. There's
a post. There was a post as well that he's obviously taken down.
That one's a bit different. The salmon one.
Yeah. That's like you got to include it all. So there's the Sweet Carolina song that they sung in the changing rooms after the game. You got the Fisher Harris calling this is the best Penrith side in the history of Penrith. I don't agree with it. You got Ati
Tell me a side
Coruscant.
while we're on that. Tell me a side that has been better than that, because it did come
90,
out
91,
from
91 Panthers.
Greg
They
Alexander
played-
has come out. Greg Alexander has come out. He's actually agreed that this is the best Penrith side he has ever seen at the Penrith Panthers. This is a legend of that side. He's come out and said it's the best side.
He's the most biased bloke, and yes, it is his team. But the 91 Penrith side, you got to actually look back at that, because that was up against a Canberra who just loved to dominate you in attack. But when it came to defense, they just loved to dominate you even more. And you listen to Matty Johns, you listen to Andrew Johns, you listen to Gordon Tallis, you listen to all the great players out there, and you tell them that this early 90s, late 80s, early 90s Canberra side, and they tell you that was the cream of the cream. That was the top place.
This is a Penrith side. This is a Penrith side that a dominance of Melbourne, they've defeated it. A dominance of the Roosters, they've defeated it. In 3 years since 2020, they have won 67 games and have only lost 10 games in 3 years. That's including having 5-6 players in Origin for 2 of those years, where they've lost 4 of those games during an Origin period. They've lost 6 games outside Origin in 3 years.
No, I still don't think it is, because Penrith winning the 91 grand final is like Parramatta winning the 2022 grand final. That's the sort of status. That's the sort of where I look at it. So, anyways, you got Api Coruscant bagging his new employers. Name another person who gets up there and bags out of his new employer that pretty much going to get told you're not wanted here. Obviously,
there's reports that have come out that said the Tigers had made contact and it's all been dealt with. The chairman of the Tigers has said if he had his time back, he'd definitely rethink it. So that's kind of been swept under the rug by Tigers management.
Yeah, see, I'd love for Tigers to just, what? We're yanking that deal. Yank it. See you later. Don't even worry. Don't worry. Go back to the NRL and whatever.
He would get, if they did that, he would get a $900,000 contract, most likely with the Dolphins, because they need a player.
Yeah, well, wherever. But then you got the post-match press conference. You got Nathan Cleary sitting there just rolling his eyes off when Dylan Edwards just been told, "Oh, what's it like to win the Clive Churchill?" And he's just said, "Look, all the other players made it easy for me," and Nathan's just basically, whatever. We've all heard it. I've won it. Don't worry about it. Like, full ripped him down. You had Penrith players who didn't even cheer or even congratulate.
I have heard. I knew you were going to bring that up. I have heard that the Penrith boys did have a massive celebration for Dylan Edwards waiting. Dylan Edwards was the last one to walk into the tunnel, and they had a massive cheer. And from a source, I have heard that he was actually told 6 minutes before he was announced that he was going to win it, and the boys celebrated with him in that moment. So, it's kind of a touchy subject.
We've heard many stories about Clive Churchill. We've heard the most recent one was Ryan Pappenhausen when he won it in 2020. He got told as soon as the full-time whistle was done, and he didn't even believe it. And there was other people who were told he was going to be they were going to be Clive. So, really, let's just say they celebrate with Dylan Edwards and he doesn't end up being the Clive Churchill mentalist. It just looked bad on film. Obviously no one really knows those reports, but you had all that. You had the daddy. You had the Ben Salmon Luai post that got taken down. You had all this, with the singing in the dressing room afterwards, which is, for people I don't know, "Sweet Caroline" is the song that Mitch Moses gets played every time CommBank, every time he scores a try. Is it coincidence in itself? No, but given that last year, they gave it to South with the Glory, kick our live on Facebook, add it all up together, make your own conclusions. I just think what they did off field just tarnished what everything they did on field. Luai's looking at missing. Look, there is reports that maybe Luai will miss 2 to 3 games the World Cup. Mate, just pull your head in. If it's not Ivan, if he can't do it and tell his own son and all the other players to do it, Brian Fletcher, the CEO, needs to step up and tell them, "Hey, pull your heads in," because just because you won a grand final doesn't make you carry on the way you did. Have respect, do whatever. Happy you're moving to another team. Don't ever do that. Fisher Harris's comments, whatever, that wasn't that, but just add that all together. You just got to pull your head in. Pull your head in.
Yeah, I'm going to agree to disagree with some of that. I agree with most of it. I think the Appy thing was terrible. I would potentially be pulling his contract too if I was the Tigers, or at least finding him or something along those lines to make him know that we are serious. You're coming here. The Luai obviously comment. We're not going to say it on here based on what it was, but obviously he does deserve any suspension. He does come with him. The Fisher Harris, no issue with it.
Yeah, I got no issue.
The sinning in the change rooms, nothing with it. I think the biggest problem with an NRL fan is we want more characters in the game. We've spoken about Latrell. We want more characters in the game. And when they come into the game, we hate them if they're not on our team. So
do you think it's also the rise of social media? Because
100%.
Take their phone, like, after out of all of this, right? So the Luai posts social media. So if he doesn't have his phone, he doesn't post that. The recording.
Luai Daddy, social media. Recordings in the fin, social media.
Appy, I don't know if Appy and Fisher Harris would have been recorded. Maybe camera crews would have been out there, so they might have been recorded. So that might have been the only thing to come out of it. You wouldn't have seen the things inside the changing rooms. You wouldn't have, press conference. There's TV reporters there. So I think social media needs to calm down with these players. But straight after a game, you're going to go jump on your phone. You're going to go text your family. You're going to call your mum and dad or whatever, and just get off social media. Seriously, just stay off it and let the rumors whisper around. You have to be a fly on the wall to see what happens. And if the walls could talk, that's just the saying goes. But stay off social media, please. Seriously.
Well, there you go. Stay off social media. Unless you're listening to the Gone for 10 show, then we want you to be on social media. We want you sharing this. We want you hitting like. But we will wrap it up there. It has hit that 30-minute mark or getting close. But obviously, we will be covering ins and outs of the Rugby League World Cup. We'll have an episode where we do break down that Australian squad. There's a few notable missing that we didn't speak about today. Obviously, Dylan Edwards being one of those. But we will talk about that in a different episode. Baxter, massive props to Penrith. They've gone back-to-back, the second team only in the NRL era. But, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll be back to review the World Cup and who we think our dark horses, smokies, and winners of it will be.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Peace.